And that's the irony here. Once again, Harry and Meghan, Duke and Duchess of Self-Sabotage, strike again. Usually when a controversial book drops, the strategy is simple. Ignore it and let it fade away. But this time something unusual happened. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry actually issued a statement about a new book by royal biographer Tom Bower. And this may have been the worst possible move from a PR perspective that they could have made. Because by responding publicly, Harry and Meghan have done exactly what every author hopes for. They have validated the story. So what exactly is in Tom Bower's book? How does this connect back to Omid Scobie's books? Why did the Sussexes respond so strongly to Tom's book? And did their statement accidentally confirm the very claims that they want to shut down? Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome back to another video. Please do excuse me, I am still recovering from a severe upper back injury, so I have to sit still and wear zip-up things and use this pillow. So I'm sorry for the casual vibes. But as always, I would like to invite you to subscribe if you have not yet already. And if you would like to, click like, hype, and comment down below. So the controversy began with a new book from royal investigative biographer Tom Bower. He is known for writing highly critical biographies of public figures, and he previously wrote the best-selling book about the Sussexes titled Revenge, Meghan, Harry, and the War Between the Windsors. Now he is releasing another book examining the ongoing tensions inside the royal family and the role played by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Ahead of publication, several excerpts began circulating in the British press, containing claims about conflicts within the royal household and the Sussexes' relationship with other senior royals. What made this situation unusual, however, is what happened next. Instead of ignoring the book, a spokesperson for Harry and Meghan issued a sharply worded statement dismissing the book and accusing Bower of spreading conspiracy and melodrama. They called it deranged. And that's a strong language for an author who has never been successfully sued for defamation and is also a lawyer. And that response is exactly what has people talking. Because in the world of PR, responding to criticism like this ends up having the opposite effect of what you intend. From a public relations standpoint, responding like this is an incredibly risky move, and in the case of Harry and Meghan, was exactly the wrong move to make. A lot of people argue why. Why would that be the wrong decision? Why can't I defend myself? I should correct the record. The best way to correct the record or defend yourself against an untrue claim would be a lawsuit for defamation. By responding the way the Sussexes did, or by making any degree of commentary about it. Ultimately, what you do is you amplify the story. You make new press about the situation that always includes the initial, information about the book or claims from the book that caused you to respond in the first place. So it ultimately ends up amplifying the story overall. If they had ignored this new book by Tom Bower, coverage might have stayed limited to just a few headlines or be contained within what is this book about and what are the excerpts from it. But once Harold and the Meg issued a statement, it became a bigger news event. It also drives curiosity. When public figures strongly deny something, audience often becomes more curious about the claims. People start wondering what exactly was in this book that upset them enough to respond in this way, especially with this strong emotional language. So then people want to find out more, and they go and they read the book or they read the excerpts, and then more people know about these claims that you apparently want to suppress. But doing the opposite of staying silent, ignoring it, it actually signals confidence. The never complain, never explain policy popularized by Queen Elizabeth II is very true and very powerful. The less attention you give something, the less validity you offer it, and the less important it seems, and the more confident you look. That approach avoids giving oxygen to the criticism. And furthermore, their approach of attacking the author is not a good look either, because they didn't just attack the book, they attacked Tom Bower. The emotional response that they had suggests a nerve was hit. The tone of the statement was unusually sharp, and when a response sounds emotional, it automatically reads as highly defensive and can create the impression that the criticism struck too close to home. Instead of dismissing the book as irrelevant, the statement ended up elevating it into something worth fighting, and then we have that other layer to it which raises ethical questions which we must address first. For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to dismiss Tom Bower as deranged or obsessed raises ethical questions about their behavior here, particularly given Bower's professional reputation. He is a trained lawyer and known for meticulous investigative biographies, and despite writing many controversial books, he has never successfully been sued for defamation, which means none of his claims can be proven as false in court. When public figures with enormous platforms like Harry and Meghan attack a journalist's credibility that harshly without addressing any specific claims or filing a lawsuit that shows that that person is not credible, i.e. making something up, it risks looking less like rebuttal from the Sussexes and more like an attempt to discredit the messenger to cover your own butt. It also feels like Harry and Meghan are leveraging their infamy and fame to essentially slander this author. Is it ethical to use such extreme and personal language towards someone with arguably much less fame? Whether they like the book or not, if they don't have any merit to sue, then it's the same issue that we have seen with the press repeating itself. Meghan and Harry have constantly attacked and filed suits and had beef with the press. And time again, the press has been shown to have had every right to write the articles that they did. The same thing is happening here with Tom Bower. I get the displeasure in being criticized. It's not a nice feeling. And we are actually hardwired to not like criticism and for it to give us negative emotions. Because from an evolutionary perspective, there's safety in numbers way back in caveman days. We want to be part of a group and have approval from our group. And when we get criticism, it automatically feels like we've done something wrong or we need to make a correction here, and it can sting. And a lot of that is just that protective reaction of, oh, take criticisms seriously so that you can stay safe in this group. And now we know that that's not always, that high emotional response is not always true. And we don't need to take criticism so personally, but you do need time to process it. Like, I get all of that. Criticisms are not nice always, but they are important to listen to. And so I can understand Harry and Meghan not liking to be criticized. And they are criticized a lot. But Harry and Meghan could live more privately if they wish. They could make less statements. They could do less publicized vacations. They could put themselves out in the public sphere less often. Placing yourself in the public eye invites critique. Everyone knows that. So if they don't like criticism, the answer is not in attacking the critics. The answer is in what you can control, because you can never control how other people react to you. You can, however, control how you respond. You can control how much you put yourself out there in the public sphere. Harry and Meghan don't have public jobs the way a CEO of a big company does, or an actor or a singer, somebody like that who has a job where they are out in the public eye, a news anchor. These people's careers are in the public sphere. And for them to choose something else, to choose a different career path that's less public, could be more challenging. Harry and Meghan have enough disposable income to choose something else. They could do something not in the public eye if they wanted, but they choose not to. So they should be more accepting, more normal, and less bothered by criticism. So to attack Tom Bower in this manner, rather than sue, is quite illuminating. We can infer that they don't have grounds to sue, therefore, this is a tantrum. So let's take a closer look at what the claims are that have irritated Meghan and Harry thus far. First, we have the claim about Meghan influencing Harry. In his new book, Betrayal, Power, Deceit, and the Fight for the Future of the Royal Family, Tom Bower writes that Queen Camilla allegedly told a friend that Meghan Markle had brainwashed Prince Harry and dramatically influenced his decisions and his separation from old friends and royal life. The Sussexes would obviously want to undermine the validity of this claim because it challenges the narrative that Harry independently chose to step away from the royal family. If this claim were to be believed, it reframes the story as Harry being heavily influenced by Meghan rather than acting on his own convictions. And there's actually a lot of evidence to support this claim and Tom's version of events, including the fact that Harry had, during the engagement interview and the early days with Meghan, behaved in a manner and spoke in a manner as though he believed that Meghan was going to be very similar to Catherine in her dedication and her behavior on the job and her interest in the job. We also see evidence to support this claim in Harry's general behaviors of distancing from friends that he had had for years, even friends outside the royal family that he had made independently, like not through his work as a royal, but his own personal friends he stopped talking to when he moved away. And a lot of them have said that they have been shocked by Harry's behaviors and Spare and the attacks on the family. And Oprah especially. Additionally, Harry's language when, defending their move and things like that has evolved over time to make it seem less and less like it had anything to do with Meghan, whereas initially it seemed very much like it was a lot to do with Meghan, and he even said it was a lot to do with Meghan. In the Oprah interview, he even said, "I didn't know I was trapped until Meghan told me." He didn't realize these things were a problem until Meghan told him they were a problem. And for anybody who's been in a narcissistic relationship, that is a massively triggering red flag. I'm not going to go too deep into evidence for and against each claim in this video, but if you would like a deep dive video where we go through each of these claims and I will collect evidence that supports or disproves these claims, whatever we can find either way, and go through this in a little bit more depth, then leave it in the comments below that you would like that video and I will do it. But the next claim that seemed to have gotten Harry and Meghan in a tizzy was that royals saw Meghan as a threat. The book reportedly says that senior royals, including Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, viewed Meghan as a potential threat within the royal household early in her marriage to Harry. If this claim gains traction, it undermines the Sussex narrative that conflict within the royal family was primarily caused by media hostility rather than internal concerns about Meghan's behavior or influence. Meghan and Harry have long held the position that the media was the primary driver for leaving, and then Harry sort of intertwined tensions with the Waleses in Spare. But this version of events would show that Meghan's behavior and her challenges to adapt to the rules and the role of a working royal played a huge part in their departure, which we have a lot of evidence to support that version of events. Claims about Harry distancing himself from his old life also have come up in the excerpts that are available about this book. Bauer reportedly claims that Harry cut off many longtime friends and even changed his phone number, making it difficult for people from his previous life to contact him after his relationship with Meghan intensified. The Sussexes wouldn't want this claim to be believed because it feeds a broader narrative that Harry became isolated from his former support network, which would reinforce the idea that his decisions were influenced by a shrinking circle around the couple and that Meghan was taking more control over Harry and the way that he viewed situations, which we have already discussed. The book also scrutinizes the Sussexes' finances and the role of projects like the Invictus Games, raising questions about how their brand and charitable work intersect with their commercial ventures. And their public brand relies heavily on positioning themselves as humanitarian figures. Claims that question finances or the structure of their charitable work could directly affect credibility and partnerships and would prove a lot of the public right in what they've been saying about these things. Because there have been long-standing questions about just how much the Sussexes are making charitable organizations like the Invictus Games pay for their presence there, when really their presence should be more of like a volunteer situation. Bauer's book also describes tensions between Harry, Meghan, and the royal family escalating shortly after their 2018 wedding and continuing after their move to California. The Sussexes would want to undermine the validity of this claim because if the conflict is framed as a long-running internal breakdown rather than a reaction to media pressure, it challenges the narrative that the couple were primarily victims of outside forces and had no choice but to escape the chains of royal duties. Instead, it shows that they were having interpersonal conflict and were unwilling to come to the table to solve those problems. When you look at the pattern of claims in the book, you start to see why the Sussexes may want to undermine its credibility before it gains any further traction. The real question here isn't whether every claim in Tom Bower's book is perfectly accurate. The real question is, what did the Sussexes' response accomplish? Clearly, they wanted to undermine the book and the credibility of the author and make it seem like some malicious attack with fabricated claims. But the reality of the situation is that if that were the case, then they would be suing for defamation and probably no publisher would touch the book with a 10-foot pole. Before the statement from Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, this was simply another controversial royal book, or maybe not even controversial for some people in their opinion. It was just another royal book. But once they publicly attacked the author and dismissed the book as conspiracy and melodrama, the story changed. Now the headlines aren't just about the book. They're about the Sussexes reacting to the book. And there's yet another layer to this that makes it suspicious. A couple of years ago, Omid Scobie put out another book. And in one version of the book, in the translation of it, he claimed it was some mistake that was outside his control. There was alleged revelation of who it was that was having the conversation, wondering what Harry and Meghan's future children may look like. And it was framed in a way that also exposed the Sussexes as the likely source for that information. And it was a huge controversy. And it was hugely problematic. And the Sussexes were silent about it. They did not issue a correction on the book or the situation or anything of that nature. They didn't even come out and officially deny being involved. Yet here they are very eager to put out a statement. This is something that people have criticized the Sussexes for a long time, myself included, that they put out statements to defend themselves anytime there's something that they don't like. And they do so under the guise of wanting there to be justice, wanting, journalists and publications and news to be true and trustworthy and for everything to be factual and stuff like that. They use that sort of language to try to validate their reactions and criticisms of press that they don't like. Yet when there is claims that are false or untrue, that link back to them but aren't necessarily bad for them, then they don't care. And they don't say anything, and they don't do anything. If they really cared about moving the needle toward a more ethical journalism industry, then they would speak out anytime something like that happens, not just when it's not good for them. But by making these statements so emotional and so aggressive about this specific book and the very few excerpts that we have so far, in terms of PR, this is that pivotal moment where the criticism ends up gaining power. When the people who are being criticized signal that this matters. Instead of this book or these excerpts fading into the background, the book suddenly looks like something that hit a nerve, that has truth to it. And it creates exactly the kind of curiosity that every author is hoping for. Because when public figures rush to discredit something before most people have even read it, the natural reaction from the audience is simple. Why are they so worried about it? What is it that they don't want people to know? And that's the irony here. Once again, Harry and Meghan, Duke and Duchess of Self-Sabotage, strike again. In trying to undermine the credibility of Tom Bower's book, and in doing so in such an emotional and unorganized, poorly thought out, knee-jerk sort of a way, a reactive way, the Sussexes have done the one thing that gives the book the most credibility of all. They treated it like it mattered. And this is exactly what we were talking about in the Harry and William mental wellness advocacy video that I put out recently. It was filmed before my injury happened, and I had taken the last couple of weeks and a lot of help to get it edited and posted. But in that video, we talked about Harry and Meghan's knee-jerk reactions to things and how that reactivity comes across as lack of control and very emotional, and it oftentimes backfires. And this is just yet another example of that. By not being patient, by feeding into their own emotions, by reacting really strongly and really quickly to something in this knee-jerk sort of a way, they've demonstrated a lack of control, a lack of understanding of the situation and the dynamics at play. And like I said, there's also those ethical questions that come up, and they've opened a big can of worms, because now the book looks to be a lot more sensational, a lot more accurate, and a lot more troublesome for Harry and Meghan. And remember, Harry and Meghan are some of the most unpopular public figures today. So books that are critical about them are going to do really, really well on their own. For Harry and Meghan to make it clear and obvious that they don't like this book in such strong language doesn't discourage people from reading it. Even people who believe Harry and Meghan, that it's kind of, maybe somebody who's being unfair to them, are still going to be curious to read it now. But leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm excited to cover this book more when I get access to it. And I hope you guys have a happy day. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you next time. Bye.